All right, guys. So, a very popular topic of conversation is going to happen in this video, and that is circled around uniforms. One of the more subjective things to talk about, kind of a non football subject, but it's pretty football related because honestly, fans love their uniforms. And really, over the past 10 to 20 years, particularly in the last 10 years, and I think Oregon is the one that actually brought this out, is just a real like fascination when it comes to like uniforms. I mean, back in the day, I don't think uniforms were that big of a thing. I mean, there was this a solid colored jersey, big baggy ones. They kind of go out there. There weren't a lot of alternates out there, and stuff like that. But now, with the way uniforms look now, and really just the technology that they have to kind of make them look really cool, it's become a real popular thing. And the Jaguars are actually eligible for new uniforms up here in the 2023 season. And will the Jaguars change their uniforms? I would have been one to say probably not. However, I can't overlook an email that came out a couple months ago to season ticket holders, and it was the Jaguars basically asking fans, "Hey, what's your favorite uniform from the Jaguars?" And you actually got to vote. The results were not when he voted. It's not like they instantly showed the results, and it's not like they even released the results to the public. It was clearly an internal poll so they can kind of see where the fan base is at when it comes to looking at the four different uniforms that Jaguars have had since 1995. So before we get into it, I want to go ahead and kind of go through the history of uniforms for the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars' first ever uniform was never actually featured, and that is because the original logo was actually trademarked by the Jaguar car company. So the first uniforms that came out, they looked pretty atrocious. The helmet was kind of cool, but the uniform was terrible. Luckily, that one got scrapped for a much better uniform. The Jaguars wore their first uniforms from 1995 through 2008. It featured an all-black helmet, outline numbers. It had stripes on both the sleeves and the pants, as well as the iconic long Jaguar on the shoulder. When you talk to people, this is their favorite uniform. I mean, first of all, the uniform just looks the best. And second of all, the Jaguars actually won a lot of games in those uniforms. I didn't pull up the record of the Jaguars from 1995 through 2008, but that was when it comes to the best era of Jags football. That was it, because ever since then, we've had two playoff years and one in 2017 and one in 2022. The playoff run in 2017 was a one-off. We're hoping that now our playoff run is going to be sustainable and our team's going to stay good, but time will tell. But yeah, like anyone you talk to, these are the best uniforms. The next set of uniforms was from 2009 through 2012, and I don't like these uniforms. I mean, I think mainly because they resemble losing. I think what they did was they went with a really, really basic look. And the thing that's really cool, the thing that is actually the best thing about these is the helmet. It was actually featured when the sun hit on the helmet, actually a teal shine to it, which was only featured in this era of uniforms. But that was by far the coolest thing about this. But I don't know. These uniforms look depressing to me just because the era of Jaguar football was, pretty depressing, because that was during the Mularkey era, the Gene Smith era, and when Shad Khan first bought the team. Now, the Shad Khan bought the team in January 2012, and the first thing he did was he made the black uniforms the primary uniforms. He started that in 2012, and then he brought it into 2013 and beyond, and he had the new in 2013 he introduced new uniforms. Now the new uniforms started with the new logo. I actually like the new logo more. It's definitely more modern, it's more updated. The Jaguar just looks a lot more fierce than the old one, but the uniforms that they brought in were not my favorite. First of all, he featured the black primaries, and the Jaguars actually never wore teal from the years of 2013 through 2016. So we essentially went 4 seasons without ever seeing teal, which is a crime in itself. The first thing about these uniforms that stuck out were the two-toned helmets, was the fade from black to gold, which is the first of its kind, but probably the worst of its kind. The solid color sleeve, it also featured a jag patch as kind of a salute to the military, double outline numbers, and It also famously featured the mustard gold color rush uniforms. Now, me personally, I didn't like these uniforms. I thought there was just I don't like uniforms that are too busy. And for me, there were just too many stripes going everywhere. Like, you'd have when you're wearing like the black jerseys on the white pants, you got gold and teal going on up here. The numbers looked weird. I don't know. I did not like these uniforms. A lot of people make the argument that these uniforms would have been fine had the helmet just been a solid black color, which maybe I agree with, but for me, I don't like too much going on. It seemed like with these, there was too much going on to where it kind of hurt the uniform. So I wasn't a huge fan of these. And then moving on to the current era uniforms from 2018 to present. Now, these uniforms are as simple gets. They were designed by Tom Coughlin. At least he had a big hand in it. And, we went back to the solid all black helmets. There's also no outline on the number. Solid color pants, simple as that, and one sleeve stripe and one collar stripe. So there's not a lot going on in here. Everybody's complaint is that it is way too simple. Look, if you like simplicity, these uniforms are awesome. But for me, these are probably my second favorite uniforms. That's really not saying much because I really, after the Jaguars changed their uniforms in 2012, I haven't liked really any of the uniforms that have come since then. My main complaint about these uniforms is like I think the teal on white looks great. The teal on black. I think the all blacks look sick in these uniforms combinations, but the white uniforms are just way too boring. It features no teal. When you go white on white, it's boring. When you go white on black, it's boring. When you go white on teal, the combo just looks way too forced. It doesn't really go with the top very well. And the truth of the matter is that the white uniforms need to look good for the Jaguars because the Jaguars play most of their games wearing white. Every game the Jaguars play at home in September, they wear white because of the advantage when it comes to how hot it is there. They try to get the other team to wear their dark colors. Obviously, most of the time when the Jaguars play an away game, they're wearing white uniforms. And I did a breakdown of the different all 19 of the games the Jaguars played in 2022 with the 17 regular season games and the 2 playoff games. The Jaguars wore white 10 out of 19 times. They wore black 3 times and they wore teal 6 times. So over half of the games the Jaguars are wearing these white uniforms, which the way they currently sit, that's just no bueno, no good. I can't get behind that one. So yeah, like when you look at all this, the overwhelming majority of people love the 1995 through 2008 logos. Now, the big thing is, will the Jaguars change uniforms? For me, the Jaguars should not change their uniforms just for the sake of changing uniforms and getting, the new jersey sales. The Jaguars need to change the uniforms to, for the better. To Jaguars need to change the uniforms in order to establish what the uniform should have been this whole entire time. They need to go back to some variation of the originals. Now, like I said, the Jaguars aren't blind. They see everybody right now wearing all the throwbacks. I feel like in 2022, you see a bunch of people just wearing the throwbacks because the Jaguars have a lot of cool old merch. Maybe a lot of that is because Archives opened up in Jacksonville and they're selling a bunch of, throwback items. But the Jaguars aren't dumb. They see all of this. And there have been different cool jersey concepts out there where people have actually, done their own stuff when it comes to editing the Jaguars uniforms around. And they're pretty sick. I found one on Reddit from Reddit user Holster Husto. He basically combined the 90s uniforms with the current uniforms and threw on the 2009 to 2012 helmets with the with the teal shine on it. And with this one, there's no long Jaguar. And I think if the Jaguars go with the old uniform concept, they'll probably scrap the old long Jaguar just because it's not a part of their current logo scheme. And also now with less shoulders being worn, I mean, nowadays shoulders are so tight, it's pretty much skin tight to the pads. There's really not a lot of shoulder action going on these days anymore. So I imagine to get rid of the long Jaguar, but this one was an interesting concept. Cameron Wallace Designs actually put a couple together where he put, Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen in the old school look, which is pretty awesome. And if you're just listening to this, I'd pull out your phone right now or your video and kind of go through the different pictures I'm showing you, because there really are a bunch of them online when it comes to cool uniform concepts. And man, it really just blows you away. Like I was saying earlier, man, the Jaguars should not change the uniforms for the sake of changing the uniforms. They need to change their uniforms to get it right and actually have a cool and fierce look, a look where all of a sudden people are like, man, Jaguars have badass uniforms. Like, nobody right now is saying the Jaguars have sick uniforms. I don't think anybody is saying the Jaguars have ugly uniforms, but man, we could really make a stamp on this, especially with, Jaguar football hopefully getting good again. We have our quarterback, we have our head coach. There's really not much of a better time than right now to introduce new uniforms. And, hopefully with these uniforms, we can wear them for the next 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, don't change them. Like, sometimes teams have gone away from their uniforms. Like, you saw the Browns get away from their uniforms. They went with these ugly ones and they went right back. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers they changed their uniforms. They looked awful. They went back to their old uniforms and they just put the new, their updated logo in there. The Jaguars need to do the same exact thing. And then, man, we are cooking. I mean, shout out to Shad Khan for actually making teal the primary color again, because with teams, like, black uniforms look awesome. And look, every fan base out there wants their team to have black uniforms. And you see a lot of teams starting to introduce them. I know Jets fans got really excited. I think the Cardinals actually introduced like a black helmet with the all black color scheme. I mean, you're seeing more teams kind of introduce this, and really fans love the blackout. I mean, it's really cool. But with the Jaguars, it's time to get it right, man. It's time to go back to these older uniforms and, bring back that winning era of Jaguar football back in here, because let's be real, the uniforms right now are just a little too boring. But let me know what you guys think. I know Fred Taylor put out a tweet basically implying that, hey, we're up to something. I don't know what that is. I'm sure he knows some voices inside the building, but this is exciting. But the Jaguars are eligible to change uniforms this year. I'm not sure what the process is. I'm not sure if they would have had to put in a bid to change them like the last year, what's going to happen. But the fact that the Jaguars put out that email is really cool. I'm rambling. I should end this video now. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys excited for a potential new look for the Jaguars? I know I am. With all that said, go Jags.